Okay, I'm gonna try a different kind of video because I am a bit of a word nerd. I am very interested in etymology and philology, and etymology being the study of the roots of words, and philology being the study of the way that language originated and how it shaped culture, and sentiment and other things that I couldn't tell you because I should say I'm an amateur etymologist and an amateur philologist. But I got into a back and forth with a troll on Instagram today, which was actually not so horrible. And I used the word compassion. And then I became very interested in, because I was suggesting that this person be more compassionate. But then I was like, if I'm going to say that, then I should know what compassionate means. But what I like as an etymologist and as a philologist, or as an amateur aspiring etymologist and philologist, is to know what the word originally meant, what it was intended to mean, because of course words evolve over time and things are added upon them and they're translated, and that changes meaning as well, and all other manner of changers and signifiers. But I am curious about the origin of our understanding, the origin of communication, and for that reason I'm interested in root words. So I use etymology, it's etymonline.com, and I also use Oxford American Dictionary and Merriam-Webster and the Dictionary phone app, which has a pretty decent free app that includes origins as well. So, and then thinking about compassion, though, I was like, okay, well then maybe in case of, this is what I was all thinking before I even looked up compassion. I was like, well, maybe I should know what compassion means, but also maybe I might mean more sympathy or more empathy. And so I looked at those as well. And interestingly enough, compassion is the oldest of those three words. Empathy came to us by way of German, by way of Greek, very recently, actually, 1908 from 1858, from German Einfühlung. Obviously, I'm not pronouncing any of this stuff right. In feeling, which basically was coined by this dude, Rudolf Lotze, Lotze. So empathy is the youngest sibling of these three, right? But means to be in feeling, basically. And then we go to the middle child, which is sympathy. Sympathy from the 1570s, affinity between certain things from Middle French, but directly from late Latin, sympathia, community of feeling, sympathy. It's always curious when the word is in the definition, because you're kind of like, chicken or egg. From Greek, which means fellow feeling, community of feeling. From having a fellow feeling, affected by like feelings, and assimilated from feeling together. So that is the middle child. And then the eldest child is compassion. From middle 14th century, from Old French, meaning sympathy, pity, from late Latin, meaning sympathy, and then from compati, to feel pity, from com, with, together, and pati, to suffer together. So I think it's an interesting word, compassion, because when you look at all the definitions that came later after the origin, meaning like all the ways that we might use that word now, with some words having gone out of style, and so compassion taking a bigger umbrella in terms of language, what it makes me think is the reason that we have compassion is not necessarily because we feel bad for people, but because we recognize that as a species and as things existing in the great existence, overall existence, that we suffer together. So it's more like understanding that everybody is in the same circumstance. Everyone comes from the same circumstance who is a human being that we know of, right? You are born from a mother, butt naked, and ignorant. Some of you were quiet, some of you cried, some of you had other complications on the way in, but you definitely came from a mother. You was definitely butt naked, and you was definitely ignorant, at least in the ways of the world. So we're all in the same boat. So to see someone in suffering and to have compassion for them is to know that their suffering is connected to your overall well-being. And that's important. And that's important because, people want to act like behavior exists in a vacuum. Like you can say something or do something or recognize that something happened or took place as if it only existed in that time, that place in which it happened, which is just not how humans function, right? We are a past, present, and future thinking species. So a lot of people reside in the past. A lot of people reside in the things that took place already and don't even live in the present. So a lot of people are in other dimensions, which I mentioned in a previous video in another time, but we'll talk about that later. So the thing is, though, we live on a cyclical planet. Like we're on an orb. So whether it's the environment or whether it is the well-being of individuals or the well-being of the climate, it's all on the one world. So something that takes place, like the butterfly effect, yes, all those other theories, but just being like, of course, something that takes place somewhere actually happens. Like it actually happens in existence. And because it actually happens, there is an effect that takes place that then has ripples that go out in time that have implications and influences that no one person is going to be able to count that may eventually return back to you through, a wrinkle in time. So this is why we have compassion. And this is why we have sympathy. Sympathy. Feeling together. Knowing that, like, the better people are, the better you will be. And by better, I don't mean, like, writer. I mean, the well-being. I'm talking about well-being, wholeness, feeling at peace, feeling fortified, not feeling uneasy, not feeling anxious, not feeling depressed, not feeling victimized, not feeling a number of ways. We can go on and on and on. So, but why I think about compassion, right? Because it's like, it's something to return to. It's a reminder. And it's a reminder that when you say that, it should work like a trigger word. For me, it does. Because if I'm going to say you should be more compassionate to someone, then I'm going to be like, I need to see if I'm compassionate. And to know if I'm compassionate, I need to know what compassion means. It's say what you mean, but essentially it's like know what you're saying. A lot of people do say what they think they mean, but those things they think they mean don't actually mean what they think they mean, because if they had gone to a dictionary and looked up the word or the concept, they would know more about it. But instead of doing that, they just feel the way that they feel. It's not based on wanting to know, it's based on wanting to be right. So I aim not to be that way. And I try to be very specific with my language. That being said, I am sarcastic and I see the humor in life. And I have to, because if I didn't, I would just sit down and cry. Some things going on are just so sad that I gotta find not necessarily the humor in the situation, but the ridiculousness of the situation. The ridiculousness going on is absurd. And absurdity sometimes just it brings laughter from you as a sound, not even because you feel something is funny, but you're just flabbergasted. Back to what I was saying though. So I was thinking about this word compassion and having it for others, particularly people that you don't like, because this might be way too hard. The first sip is always the scariest. And why I say that about compassion, though, is because people don't stop being human just because you don't like them. Like, you cannot like them, but they're still a person or a living thing or whatever, you know? So I say that because in this exchange that I had with this person, one of them, or there were two people, one of them referred to homeless people as pieces of shit. And in addition to people saying things like that person is a piece of shit, or that person is a monkey, or that person is an elephant, whatever animal guide you wish to call upon, or inanimate object that comes out of the body of living mammals and animals, I question people's sanity when they say things like that. Because it's like, okay, don't like a muffa. That's fine. But why you gotta dehumanize them in order to feel right about the situation? Like, one, obviously, they're not a piece of shit. Obviously, they're not a monkey. And obviously, they're not an elephant, because I assume you actually know what an elephant looks like, what a monkey looks like, and what a piece of shit looks like. And if you don't, and you harp on these things, and you take pleasure in comparing people to these things, then I begin to question your sanity, because I'm like, you're not really paying attention, but you feel very strongly about the way that you feel. And that sort of thing is how crazy-ass totalitarianism happens, and how mad people get murdered or enslaved or raped or put in gas chambers or shot in the back of the head, because people start thinking that just because you don't like someone, that somehow they no longer are human like yourself, born from a mother, butt naked and ignorant, entitled to make mistakes, entitled to do better, entitled to do all those things. And if we all had that perspective, if we all had compassion, if we had sympathy. What does empathy mean again? In feeling. Yeah. Less empathy, more sympathy, and more compassion. Interestingly enough, though, another thing is that all these words come from a Proto-Indo-European word, like one of the ancient words, which I'm totally going to butcher, but looks like quenth. And they all mean to suffer. So empathy, and of course, sympathy, and no, compassion doesn't come from that same Proto-Indo-European word. But empathy and sympathy do, and it means to suffer. It's like hell is on earth, heaven is on earth, purgatory is on earth. All dimensions exist in one place. Existence itself, the whole shebang. And in this time of bombast and pettiness and mockery and charlatanism, I think it's just really important to have that perspective of, no matter how much I dislike this person in this moment, they were born from a mother, butt naked and ignorant. Someone raised that person. You know, it's like Hitler didn't come out of the womb hiling. That just did not happen. He was raised in a social structure that begat that person. So the compassion comes from knowing that that could be any of us. Any of us could have been in different circumstances that led to different things, that led to different behaviors. And so go about your day, yes. In the Taoist sense, when you do good, great, continue doing good. When you mess up, do good again. Or not try doing good, but like work to do good until you're doing good again. There's no punishment. The punishment is the fact that you are miserable. That you're miserable, or that you're anxious, or that you don't trust yourself, or you don't trust people, or you don't trust society. We're all here together, folks. Even though they're developing all these rockets, there's going to be very few of you that are going to get to Elysium. And we know how that movie ended, okay? So we might as well not go ruin anywhere else until we fix what we've been doing over here. Not necessarily just with others, but with ourselves. There is an honor and a sacredness to being alive that must be recognized and appreciated. And, you know, I don't understand the point of being alive, being given an existence and a consciousness with which to dwell in, and not being able to know everything as a consequence, not knowing from whence you came or to where you go after death, and yet feeling resentful about that. It's just like, this is the experience. So everybody, we don't know all the answers. We don't all, no one was there at the beginning. No one made the world. We're all doing our best guess. And I know that people want to feel sure about things because that's what gets them going, like leaving the house in the morning, right? If you think about how I'm a person on a chair in a house in a particular city, which is in a particular county, which is in a particular section of a state, which is in a state, which is in a particular coast of a country, which is in a country, which is in a continent, which is in a particular hemisphere and a particular time zone of a particular planet in a particular solar system, in a particular galaxy, in a galaxy filled with billions of galaxies. I mean, you can't think like that every day. You do have to have things that ground you here. That's fine. And you can stick with your beliefs and you can have them. But the recognition is that everybody is entitled to the same thing. Everybody clearly has a piece of the truth experience or the true experience because they exist. And you had nothing to do with that. And so poo-pooing on people's entire lives when you didn't make yourself, you didn't make the world, you didn't make the clothes on your back, you didn't make the fact that you can drive around, you didn't make the history that you arrived upon. That's where the compassion comes from. Because anybody could be in any situation until they decide otherwise. This is true. But that is true of people who you despise, and that is also true of you. So that's my word nerd thing for today. And I look forward to posting this because I've never done anything like this before. But word nerd, San Eustel. Taskmaster Tarot, amateur etymologist and philologist, and lover of all things original in terms of origin. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye.